the program that the organization or the foundation has. This year, we typically, just like in previous years, we have 3 stages in the selection process. The first stage is where we look at the submitted applications and their screen, and then the second stage where the screen applications are sent to Accenture. Accenture reviews those applications and then rank and pre-select successful ones based on predefined criteria, and then after that engages and work with the foundation's team where the final entrepreneurs are selected. So this year, like Parminder said, 216,000 registered applications, of which 66,000 were screened by the foundation's team. And similar, besides our role in actually reviewing whatever gets submitted to us, this year we did something new to ensure that whatever comes to the Lord is actually the best of all the submitted applications. And what that meant was that this year, while the foundation's team, they review applications for their completeness, they review applications for the extent of alignment with the foundation's objectives, we provided QA to that entire process, so that whoever needs to be in the 10,000 makes the eventual 10,000 that we get, so that we get the best of the Lord, and applications that should be considered are actually considered, because we've tried to embed quality assurance to the process end to end, right from the screening even to the eventual selection. Then the second stage is when Accenture receives the 10,000 plus applications, and those applications are evaluated using 5 key predefined criteria in terms of, we look at them in terms of feasibility, in terms of the market opportunity that this particular application has identified. Is there need in this market? Is this a feasible business? Can we scale? Scalability is the third thing. Can we scale this particular idea, either community-wise, geographically, leveraging technologies? Are there regulatory barriers that could impede the scaling of this particular application or business ideas? We take all of these into cognizance. We try to then also understand this application or this particular business ideas, this applicant that has articulated his business ideas, does he or she understand typical key drivers of revenue, of cost, and how he or she can break even? And then finally, you realize that one of the key things in investing in a business, it's not just the business you are investing in. No matter how great or compelling the business idea is, you are also investing in the entrepreneur themselves. So one of the key things we look at is this entrepreneur. What kind of leadership skills, what kind of leadership potential has this entrepreneur demonstrated in the application? Those are the 5 key things we look at. I'll give you details as we move forward. And then finally, we then look at how much it has demonstrated viability, either of the business idea and the acumen of the applicant. That is the last one I just talked about. And then finally, we pre-select and rank the top applications. And this year, we ranked the top 6,000 applications from the 10,170. And after working with the Elumelu Foundation team, using clearly defined criteria, same 5 criteria, we selected 3,050 of those applications. And the process we go through at this point is, we look at the strategic fit of the program, the strategic fit of the application to the program, as well as the geographical reach. We look at equity in terms of conflict regions, disadvantaged groups, as well as underrepresented countries. All of these are taken into cognizance in coming up with the final selection, and this year of the 3,050 applications. And then finally, you have your winners, the 3,050. So let's go through the details. The methodology we've adopted in actually selecting this year's 3,050 applicants. One of the key things...
Sorry, hold on, please. So dear friends, as you know, since 2015, we've been selecting 1,000 entrepreneurs, yeah? Because that is our commitment for 10 years, $100 million over 10 years, and to empower 10,000 entrepreneurs, which is what we set out to do. But this year, we are selecting 3,050. I think that's something to be, observed, right? And that's to do with, and ADP will continue, it is to do with building a foundation, a foundational program to last, yeah? And last year we embarked on that, increasing the number of applications, and we selected 1,470 as a result of our partners' support and participation. That has galvanized more partners to take it from just 470 additional entrepreneurs. So 1,000 is ours, 2,050 are as a result of our partners' investment. And I really think that should be acknowledged.
Yeah, thanks, Parminder, for that. In order to ensure that this entire process is rigorous, in order to ensure the transparency of the selection process and to ensure it is credible as much as possible, and that applications are reviewed for their own merit, we identify 4 key factors that are critical to ensuring that. First and foremost is how we interpret the evaluation criteria that we've predefined, how they are interpreted in order to, it's not one person that evaluates these applications. And evaluators are subject to their own biases. So in order to reduce evaluators' bias as much as possible, we have a way of interpreting the criteria that we've defined. And that approach is very critical in ensuring that whoever comes out at the end of the day or is selected at the end of the day is actually the best of the lot. Then the second thing we also try to do is the process of selecting these evaluators and the kind of training they go through, first and foremost to reduce the biases, and at the same time to ensure that we are getting people who understand how business works and operate. And then the other thing is how we embed and entrench quality assurance end to end in the entire selection process, so that whatever is not captured by the evaluators is captured by somebody else who provides quality assurance to the entire process. And then finally, the kind of project management discipline that we bring to bear in this whole process, so that we are able to meet our timelines and we are able to get the desired outcomes. So in terms of how we interpret the criteria we've defined, 5 key criteria I said earlier. The first one being the feasibility of that particular application or the idea or the business. We look at things around, is this business idea, what kind of problem is it solving? Because every business exists to solve a particular problem or a challenge. Is it innovative and transformative idea? And secondly, does this particular business idea have the potential to create jobs, which is one of the key things, one of the key impact of this program? And then, can it generate wealth, not just for the entrepreneur? Can it trigger some sort of wealth creation along the value chain? And then, how financially viable and sustainable is the idea that is being presented by this particular entrepreneur? And then in terms of market opportunity, we look at things around, does the applicant understand the market? Is there a clear definition of market and understanding of the market? Does this particular applicant understand the competitive and regulatory landscape, the market dynamics, the changes in this marketplace? Has this applicant demonstrated that understanding? Then things around, does this applicant even understand that there are people or competitors who are already existing in the market, new entrants that are likely to come into this market? And how is this applicant positioned either to get market share from existing businesses, and also to make sure that even new entrants are not able to steal market shares from this particular applicant or application. And then we look at scalability. Is there a potential that we can replicate this business that is probably starting in a particular community to other community, to other regions, and then across all of Africa? Can that happen? Can that be done? Probably leveraging technology and every other thing that is required to actually achieve that. And then in terms of financial understanding, what we then look at is, does this applicant understand the basic drivers of revenue and cost, and how he or she can break even at the end of the day? And then finally, leadership and entrepreneurial skill. Has this person in any way demonstrated passion and commitment, some sort of leadership experience and entrepreneurial expertise that we want people will invest in to demonstrate? Are they ready? Have they got the gut to go in this business? Those are things we look at. And then at the same time, does the applicant demonstrate previous achievements or accomplishment with respect to how to manage people and manage resources for a common goal? All of these critical factors are things that we look at in determining whether an application is successful or not. And then how we apply this entire criteria to an early stage business or to a growth stage business differs. And it differs for obvious reasons. For example, you expect someone that is just starting a new business to have clear understanding, to have done extensive market feasibility. And so for a business that is just starting, in terms of how we weigh the weighting of those factors, it is 30% for a business that is just starting compared to 10% for a business that is already in existence, because you couldn't have been running your business if you've not done your feasibility. However, in terms of the market opportunity, we believe that market dynamics changes every now and then. Market dynamics aren't the same because of the various factors that affect the market. And as such, whether you are an early stage business or you are a growth or a business that is trying to expand, we expect you to have the same, to be able to demonstrate to us, and we apply the same weighting to you. Because whether you are expanding or whether you're just starting, it is the same market. The same market forces you are exposed to. The same things will determine whether you succeed in the marketplace or not, and the same market dynamics. Then, in terms of scalability, again, the same thing, because whether you are trying to expand or you're starting a business, the factors that affect scalability are virtually the same. And then finally, in terms of financial understanding, again, it is skewed more 30% to existing businesses and just 10% to a startup. And the reasons are also obvious. For example, if you've been running a business for 4 years, 5 years, or for 3 years, you would have understood by now the key drivers of revenue, the key drivers of cost, and what you need to do to be able to break even, the volumes you need to drive to be able to break even in your marketplace. Because having run the business for some years, you should have enough data that you can use to decide assumptions or articulate your assumptions clearly and then begin to come up with those factors. But for a new business that is just starting, we just expect you to demonstrate to some extent that you also understand these factors, because you wouldn't be in business anyway if it's not all about making money. And how you make this money has to be very clear to us. And then your leadership skills, whether you're an existing entrepreneur or you're a new person, a startup, we want to know what you've done before that distinguishes you, that tells us and that demonstrates to us that you are able to run this business successfully. Why? We don't just invest in business ideas, we also invest in the people that run those businesses. And no matter how great a business or compelling a business idea is, if the person leading that business is not able to manage the business, it will certainly not achieve the objective. However, to further simplify the process and again limit as much as possible evaluators' biases, we actually decompose these 5 areas into very simple questions, 25 questions, where during the process of evaluation, the evaluator just need to ask yes or no.
Members of the audience, if you have any question to ask, please just raise your hand so that it can provide clarification. Please continue.
All right, thank you, sir. So the evaluator just need to know, just need to ask simple questions, and that's yes or no. And then when you say yes, you get whatever point is behind. And at the end of the day, these points are aggregated. Once they are added up, it determines whatever score you get at the end of the day. So we don't do bucket allocation. There are critical questions you need to answer, and whether whoever is reviewing this application needs to also answer the same question, so that irrespective of who reviews at any point in time, it is only when it is very clear that an application should score higher or score lower, that is when that happens. Otherwise, whether you review it anywhere, go to South Africa and review it, and you have to answer the same questions, you are likely to come up with the same outcome, except something else is wrong. More often than not, you will almost come up with the same answers. So I'll just give you an example. For example, under feasibility, has this entrepreneur defined features of his or her product? If somebody is defining has not defined the features of a product, how do you think he can sell that particular product? He can sell it. He may have defined the product, but the features of that product and the benefits that consumers will gain from that product is not very clear or well articulated, then that product is not yet fully defined. So there's a score allocated to that. Then another thing quickly is, has the entrepreneur indicated knowledge of the competitive landscape of his or her business? As I said earlier, if an applicant just says, I am going to be the first person in this particular business area, and we know fully well that there are already existing businesses, and not just that, we are also aware, probably based on industry information, because we draw people from different industry background, that there are new entrants who have registered or who are coming in for that particular business. It tells us that this person really does not know the fact that the market share he or she intends to get, he may not even get up to maybe 10% of that. And then we do the same thing for financial understanding. Under financial understanding, we ask simple questions as, is the financial forecast for this business realistic or based on reasonable assumptions? What we want to see there is just simple. That you did not arrive at the numbers through some funny means. We want to be sure that you arrived at the numbers you're presenting through very clear assumptions. We want to make sure that your assumptions in arriving at those numbers are very, very clear. And then we look at your assumptions, and when they make sense, and when it is clear and they add up, we give you whatever score that is that particular question has. And then at the same time, we also look at the logic for making money, revenue. Does it add up? If you've provided your volume, we also expect to see price. And we know what will help you. Your revenue is based on a very clear, you're looking at your volume and then the price, and that gives us what you intend to make before other factors come in. If some of these things are not clear, you lose that mark. And finally, we add up everything, and then you get your score. Now, the next question is, how do we ensure that, fine, we've put in the right processes to ensure that whatever we are able to interpret the criteria clearly and that there are no biases. How do we then ensure that these people that are coming to review these applications, they are the best and they are qualified to actually review those applications? And that's what we call the evaluator selection and training. So in terms of this, we just use, first, it's all about the background of that particular evaluator. Has he studied business? Does he or she understand business? Those are the things we take into cognizance Does this person understand planning, financial modeling, or simple assumptions, how you come up with assumptions, milestones, how you plan for your milestones and all of those things. Those things are very important to us, and we'll take that into cognizance in selecting the people that actually review these applications. And then the second thing we also do is we look at the profile. We do an investment appraisal case study. So we give the person a test, irrespective of who you are. You are given a test. So you do a case study, and we look at how you presented your case. Because the case study is similar to writing a business proposal. And if in your case study, we found out that you don't even have basic understanding of what it means to write a proposal or to understand a business proposal, then you are not the best person, and we won't take you. And then we also look at speed, because this is all about speed. To review 10,000 applications over 5 weeks is speed. We test your speed. How soon can you complete? How soon are you able to complete even the investment case? How soon are you able to think very fast? We have group discussion. We also employ group discussion where we throw questions to the evaluators, and then we want to see how they discuss, how they are able to articulate and really think through a problem-solving process, but a business problem-solving process, for that matter. And then content. We then work them through the program's objectives, and then the interpretation of the assessment criteria, and then the final thing we do is that we put in place the right controls to ensure that people don't divulge the information, because you have to ensure that whatever you see, you don't go out there and divulge. As Accenture, we have a very strong data control and data protection process. And each entrepreneur virtually goes through that process as an Accenture staff. And where people are new, just coming in, and they've not gone through that process, as soon as you give them their laptop, the first thing they see is that training. And they must complete that training before they come on board to go through this particular program. Now, okay.
So can you just elaborate where you select? Are they all, just for the audience, I know, but where do the evaluators come from? Are they all Accenture staff, or do you recruit?
Oh, great. All right, the evaluators, most of them are Accenture staff, especially the senior evaluators, and the others don't necessarily have to be Accenture staff. But most of them are people with strong business qualification, we've got people who work, some of them run their own businesses. And over the years, they've walked through this process with us. So every year, they come on board. They are able to structure their business in such a way that they know that we will call them. And so whenever we call, they are ready to answer. And they are the backbone that we've relied on over these years to ensure consistency, to ensure that the culture of rigor as well as credibility is maintained. So people from business schools and even people that run their own businesses. And some people work, and during that period, they just take vacation. They come, work, and then they go back. Why? Because they want to, they believe in making impact. They may not be able to make the impact on their own, but they believe this forum presents opportunity for them to affect the life of one person who may receive the seed capital, who they may not know, who they may have not seen, but just the sheer fact that they are part of this success story, they are ready to do everything possible just to be a part of it. And I'm sure that's why most of us are here today as well. So the next critical question is, having evaluated an application, the next critical thing is, how do you then rank? You've rated. How do you then rank such that there's consistency, the kind of standards you adopt ensure consistency in the ranking process? That is what I'm just about to talk about. So how do we rank applications? I haven't scored them. So we've developed what we call score band. We have score band. We have 7 score bands from those who score 90 to 100, that's what we call the very high, to the very low, 0 to 20%. Let me try and walk you through and interpret what each of these score bands means. For an applicant to be in the very high ranking, this applicant must have articulated or presented an application or a business idea that is a game-changing one. It must be very innovative, and not only that, 3 other criteria must have been satisfied. 1, there must be a sound and well-articulated revenue model. Very important. The revenue model must be clear, it must be sound, and we must see that it's well articulated. The numbers add up, and the key drivers of revenue, the key drivers of cost are all clearly stipulated and articulated or defined. Then the next thing is that there must also be a clear marketing model. Your target market must be clear. The competitive landscape, your product differentiation, all of these things are very important. So 1, your revenue model, your market model, and then finally, your leadership skills and experience must have been well demonstrated and clearly articulated in the application. And when we see all of these, as we walk through the 25 questions, at the end of the day, you see such a person scoring very high. And then the next band is 80 to 89, which is high. For such a business, they are similar to the first. However, they probably don't have one of these three criteria, which is either the revenue model or the marketing model or the leadership skills. But more often than not, we find people who have both the revenue model and the marketing model clearly articulated, but probably the leadership skills not so clear. Those are the people you typically find in this range. Then the 70 to 79, the medium high, some of them are regular businesses. But despite the fact that it's a very regular business, this business would have been able to clearly articulate its revenue model. Examples could be teaching, farming, something commercial or fashion design. But they've clearly articulated their revenue model, their marketing model, and the leadership skills are very clear to us. So we separate, by so doing, you know what we've done? We've separated innovative businesses from regular businesses. Even when they both demonstrate those three criteria and they are well articulated, we still try to distinguish those businesses. Or anybody in this core band would probably be missing two of the three criteria: the revenue model, the marketing model, or the leadership skills. And then we have the medium. It's a regular business, similar to the high medium. However, it's missing one of these three criteria that I've highlighted earlier. And then you have the low, which is regular business. There are severe gaps in the information, and then there's poor familiarity of the applicant with the industry. The applicant does not understand the industry and has not done enough to really demonstrate to us that this is what I want to do. Because the reality is this: if you are really interested in a business, fine. It may come as an idea, but when you have to put down that idea, just be able to say things that are clear, that shows that you really understand this business today, and probably you understand what may happen in terms of the market dynamics tomorrow. Then finally, the very low, so we can live here. The very low applications are incoherent applications that are difficult to understand, even what the business idea is all about or what the person is saying. Or for such, there's nothing we can do. It's empty. It's not clear, and also it's garbage in, garbage out. Project management discipline. This is very important. First and foremost, it is all about evaluation capacity planning. We plan our evaluators, we plan the rolling on and off of evaluators in such a way that it also matches the way the application process goes. We've realized over the years that in the first few weeks, applications, people don't submit, typical. But in the last week, you can receive as many as 50,000 applications in the last week because people have been documenting and they just finish and submit. And so we also plan the capacity of our entrepreneurs in such a way that we also bring them on as that also occur. And then also, as a reviewer, we also plan your capacity. We manage your daily capacity in such a way as well. We know your best time. Some people's best time is in the night. We have nocturnal people amongst our reviewers. So during the day, they review. In the night, the next morning, you see that they are ahead of every other person. So we also try to manage their review process. That's what we mean by capacity planning. Then besides that, the conflict and exception management. Now, you must, as a matter of fact, declare if you know anybody who applied to this, who is an applicant. Otherwise, if we get to know, that would be a very, very big offense on when we get to know ourselves. So at the beginning, we must not divulge if we know anybody. Last year, was it last year? I think so. My brother-in-law applied, and then he told me I applied. I said, thank you. And then maybe I'm sure at the end of the day, he was expecting that he would be selected. But at the end of the day, he wasn't selected. I think I heaved a sigh of relief. Because I could tell anybody that, look, this process is transparent. And why? Number one, you don't even get to see the name of the person you are reviewing. So that is one. You don't see the name. So you don't know. It's blank. You just get an application. And then the unique identifier. And then you review. And then we also have the QA. So even if you get to guess, and you think that is your own application, and then you score that, or someone you know, because the person tell you the industry. Let's say an hypothetical case. Somebody else is going to provide QA, and then the person providing QA can mark it down. And then that is not all at the end of the day. We also then review with the foundations team. And before you know it, it's like going through the eye of a needle. So that when you are out of it, you know you've been through the eye of a needle indeed. Then evaluation process quality assurance. I've talked about this. Preliminary QA to stage 1.
There's question. Chris, go
on. Thank you. Regarding the conflict, right? I think it's important you let us know what happens where there's a conflict, right? Who suffers?
Okay, thank you.
Is it the candidate or the evaluator?
It crossed my mind when he said he had
I think it's
relief. I'm like, so, okay, good point.
I think it's obvious who suffers is the evaluator. The evaluator ceases to be an evaluator. We've had that, and we actually say, thank you. Just excuse us, please. Come back next year. Very simple process. We got somebody, and then he said, oh, I applied. But we can't see the name. And because we can't see the name, even if you've applied and we say, okay, maybe you may not see it. When you see your own, give it to somebody else. How are we sure that it's not your own you're going to review? We actually told this person. That's a story I can tell you. A case study where we actually told the person, we are sorry. You can't review this year. You can come back next year. Because you've gone through the selection process and you were successful. But right now, we cannot have you on board. Hope that's not too hard. All right, great. So the next is, I've talked about this evaluation process, QA at the screening stage, QA embedded through the entire process, and on a daily basis, QA is embedded. Somebody checks to see if you score somebody too low, wants to know why. If you score somebody too high, wants to know why. Those are spot checks on daily basis, and then you are giving feedback besides the detailed QA. So that one, we quickly find remedies to it. Why is this person too low? And then you quickly come back to us and let us know. And why is this person too high? You justify why the person is scored high. Despite the fact that there's another QA that may rank the person lower or bring the person up. And then prompt feedback are also given. So adjustments are made. Then data integrity. We have backup. There's access control to the tool. So you don't just review somebody else's own. You have your own identifier, and you log in with your details, and that gives you access. You don't have access to another person's profile on the tool. So we're able to know who reviewed what, and then we're able to then provide corrections or when we need to. Issues and risk, we manage that through the weekly risk management process. So this is where we want to see. First, I'll walk you through the outcomes of the 10,170 applications in terms of the emerging trends based on the data. And then the very important one, I will then walk you through the top 3,050 applications and what the statistical views are from the successful applicant. Right on? Great. So,
any questions anywhere? Anywhere? Anyone? Any questions? All right, go on, please.
Thank you, sir. So in terms of geographical spread of the 10,170 applicants, they were all from 54 African countries. And of these 10,170, Nigeria was about 39% of the entire number of applications. West Africa or Western Africa led the lot with about 57%, followed by East Africa 26%, and then by Central Africa, then by South Africa, and then we still have North Africa, who have over the years not really pushed the numbers, still last in terms of, still the least in terms of the geographical spread of the volume of applications that made up the 10,170. The details are just here, Nigeria, and then you can have others. Imagine West Africa, Nigeria 3919, Ghana 255, and then you have Cameroon 3995 here, you have Egypt just 52, and then Uganda leading the way. This used to be Kenya, but I think Uganda, is 665. What has happened here is Kenya actually used to be the leader in East Africa, but in that block right now, I think Uganda is almost doing twice of what Kenya is doing. So the competition is on, and we want the competition to continue. But what will be interesting to know in maybe next year is how far Ghana can come compared to Nigeria, so that the competition between the first 2 and 3, we want to see that competition ripen over time and become even stiffer. Oh, sorry. Benin, right? Oh, yes, sorry, I think I didn't see. Benin is second. Sorry. Benin is second, followed by Ghana. So between Benin and Ghana, we want to see who will come very close to Nigeria next year. And I'm sure it's possible.
A question. Big, yeah? Can you get a microphone, please? Okay.
Thank you very much for the presentation, African Development Bank. I can see the spread is very interesting. Now I can see a sort of a bias towards West Africa. What can we do, actually, to get all the areas of the African continent involved in that process? Is it a penetration issue eventually? And how can we make sure that fragile states, participants, could be involved?
The CEO will also add there. But we do, at times you wonder why we have the kind of elaborate publicity we have. If 200, like last year, 150,000 applied and we're able to select just less than 2,000. Why, therefore, the serious campaign that goes on? That serious campaign goes on because of a variety of reasons. One is to make sure that all the countries have equal opportunity. And in fact, we advertise Arabic, in Portuguese, French, not just English, to make sure we cover every part of Africa. We encourage our alumni in these countries to organize like kind of roadshow, workshops, to encourage again people to participate. We work in some countries with the state, like what's happening in Benin. By the way, it's Claudia, like what's happening in Benin. That's one of the reasons it's gone up, because the government actually went out to encourage people to participate, increase their participation. So we do all of this, and we have seen improvement, but we can do a lot. If you look at North Africa, only 182. We have some ambassadors here from North Africa, so we need to have collaboration so that we can increase the participation in these countries. I think that's so. Advertisement. Another thing we do is we try to make sure that it's gender sensitive or balanced. We've made some progress there, as we will see soon. We also try to make sure that it's not elitist or for people only in urban areas. As I said, what are people in rural areas? How do they participate and benefit from this? What are people who don't have access to internet connectivity? How do we ensure they also participate? So all of this will factor in. Even so, it's a continuous improvement. One of the things we expect to get from the audience today, because that's why we're opening this up, is to say what more can we do by our ideas, advice to improve the processes. We continue to get it better. But we need everyone on board. Everyone on board, those who are in this room and those who are listening to us, to try to make sure we encourage some areas. You see, Nigeria has, is it 3,000 something? Or West Africa, almost 6,000, right? And then if you go to North Africa, just 182. However, I must say that this is out of the 10,000, not out of the 200 and some thousand. So another thing also is, one of the decisions we took at the advisory board meeting too is, how do we begin to also improve or work on the criteria so that we make it a lot broader and to be able to capture people that really need this support. Thank you. Yeah, go on.
Can I just add to that? I mean, I totally agree. I think the biggest thing that we've observed over the last 5 years, this is our 5th year, is that the African continent's entrepreneurial ecosystem is not uniform, right? In East and West Africa, the entrepreneurial DNA is there. In South Africa and certain parts of Southern Africa is there, yeah? They also reflect the 7 of the fastest growing economies, and who's driving those economies. It is the entrepreneurs. And so we have, every year we develop campaigns to target the underrepresented, the fragile economies, and that goes also for our 37 states in Nigeria. It is not uniform, yeah, and we make those efforts. And you'll hear what we've done with one of our, the woman campaign, yeah, and you'll see the results of that. We totally agree. We're mindful that we need to get and penetrate. So it really is that we need to work with African Development Bank and other development agencies who have footprints in those fragile economies, in those underrepresented countries, as our partners, to really help us to get that message when we open the portal on the 1st of January and as we begin to select, yeah? Thank you.
Yes, excellent.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's fascinating. And just the question that's going through my mind all the time is, your criteria are so rigorous, which they clearly should be. I mean, why aren't banks funding these things? If there should be obvious kind of business opportunities. And perhaps the value add you can provide is, I think, what you were saying here, sort of getting people in who've got a brilliant idea, but don't have the skills to understand how to present a brilliant, MBA type business case. I mean, I went through an MBA, it's tough. To get to that standard, you've already gone through so many hurdles. It's how do you get back into the ecosystem, I think is the key question. Thank you.
The point you raised about banks' involvement, and also Parmenda's point about working with private sector in particular to improve participation is very interesting. We've seen that in countries where United Bank for Africa, UBA, operates, the 20 African countries they operate in, the participation is high because the bank deliberately, through their SME desks in those countries, help to encourage people to participate. So as we move further, we need to do more of such with partner institutions, the International Red Cross, the embassies, the commissions, economic attaches, the development agencies, African Development Bank, Afrexim, and co. Because, this is actually helping to move the needle in Africa, in our development. So we need to all work together to see how this prospers further. For the banks, I intend to take this crusade in our advocacy work. I'm happy that development banks are beginning to support this. The CEO of the Development Bank of Nigeria is in front of us. This is very well capitalized, up to $1 billion. He's here. I believe he will take something out of this gathering. And the commercial banks also, we intend to engage the commercial banks with the central banks of the various countries across the continent so that they can also look in this direction. It is something that is worth doing, it's something worth pursuing. And let me also use the opportunity again to talk to people in this room and also people who are listening and watching what we're doing. And the strong voices we have here, very strong voices we have here, to continue to push the advocacy for banks, development institutions and agencies to support this initiative. I must commend United Bank for Africa, maybe for obvious reasons. Wait, let me tell you why. Maybe for obvious reasons, but through UBA Foundation, they do support the advocacy, the creating of SME. The bank itself has SME desks in the countries. The bank provides soft loans, and through the French Development Agency, the French AFD, about $70 million, I think, when President Macron came to Nigeria, so one of the agreements that we signed. The whole purpose is through UBA's bank guarantee to support these African entrepreneurs in all the African countries. We believe that these interactions, engagements, and collaborations will help our people on the continent. Very good question, Your Excellency, you raised. Thank you very much.
I could just add to what you have said, Tony, in reaction to your questions on fragile states. The partnership that we have started developing together is exactly trying to reach out communities affected by conflict, which normally are far from all economic investments done by a normal bank or a normal development agencies. And this bridge that we have been able to make at the moment, it's still very modest, but it is showing how we can reach much further than just the normal partners, and this is very encouraging on that scene. Yeah.
If you look at Nigeria, for instance, through the efforts and support of International Red Cross, northeastern part of Nigeria is like a fragile zone in our country, but they are working with the Elumelu Foundation to identify entrepreneurs from that region and supporting them, and also in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria, the same thing. And for us, the benefit of this kind of intervention is even beyond our understanding and comprehension sitting here. When people live in poverty and they don't have economic hope, they don't see a better future tomorrow, it becomes a vicious cycle. They want to remain and they want to pull everyone down, and that is the root cause of extremism. But when people live in poverty and they see their neighbor, through interventions like this, lives begin to change, there will never be a population for you to recruit from in your extremism. That is a message we need to keep pushing. People need to understand how interventions like this go extremely far in changing not just a family's life, but a region's life. And this is why we have embraced entrepreneurship as a way to achieving this. So I want to commend Internet and our other partners, and I'm very happy. You know, we're so eager to talk about AFD, but we'll soon talk about it, the great things now happening on our continent. Thanks for this question. I think very, very valid contribution too. Okay. Maybe you tell us how we can increase that.
Yes. Thank you, President and dear brother. Well, just I want to assure you that I will work to achieve this main object, that we have to increase, the number of the applicants from the North Africa. In any case, maybe I will organize and will carry out very soon your visit to Tunisia, just to promote more this important initiative in favor of the African young entrepreneurs. So, dear brother, maybe we'll organize this visit very soon at convenient date for you. Thank you, dear brother.
We'll make the trip. We'll come. We'll visit. We'll plan it. And we'll come and create more awareness. Thank you. Okay.
All right. So the next slide just gives us an indication of when we review the 10,170 applications. Some of the things we saw is that, you recall, I gave a ranking scale from 0 to 100, right? We discovered that the proportion of very high to high and high medium ranking applications compared to the total number of entries received from that region actually is higher in Eastern Africa, with about 18.6% compared to other regions, meaning a number of those applications were really solid applications within the Eastern African region. And that is why 18.6% of them actually scored within that very high ranks or high scale. And then relatively, you find out that
technology sector or cost across?
Yeah, it's all sector. It's
Okay.
not based on the particular sector. This is general of the total data. So South Africa had the least proportion with 7.5%, and other regions ranges from 11 to 17%. So in terms of how the distribution across Nigerian states, including the FCT, and across the 6 geopolitical zones, you find out that the southwestern region had the highest with 1,514 of the 10,170 applications, followed by South, which is 722, and then followed by South, and then you have 690 from the North Central, and other regions follows accordingly. Then in terms of states, the number of applications received per state, Lagos had definitely, just like all other years, virtually had the highest. 23% of all applications of all Nigerian applications actually came from Lagos. And then other states, I think after Lagos, you had about 8.8 from the Federal Capital Territory, and that's just all from a Nigerian perspective. And now, in terms of sectoral distribution of the different applications, agriculture, education, ICT, commercial, retail, and manufacturing. Most applications were predominantly from those five sectors. And you can see the distributions here. 28.9 agriculture, 8.7 from ICT, 7.6 from education and training, then 7.5 each from both manufacturing, commercial, and retail. So that's just the sectoral distribution. And then when you talk in terms of the life stage of a business, how the 10,170 applications are distributed across a business life cycle from an idea stage to the growth stage, you discover that quite a number of those applications, over 60% are from both the idea stage and then the market entry stage, which is actually, and then a sizable percentage again from the testing stage, meaning most of these applications are ready to enter the market. And that actually is time to value, because if you are investing in an application that is ready to go to the market, or a concept, or somebody that is still in the market entry, you're able to shape quite a lot of things about that business as they go through the incubation program. And then we have just 11% of that 10,000 in the growth stage. Now, in terms of the total male to female of the 10,170, we had over 3,000 applications. 3,634 applicants in that 10,000 were female, and in some countries like South Africa, Seychelles, Namibia, Madagascar, we had the female exceeding the male distribution. So across ranking scales, so what we did then was to then look at, fine, we've looked at the sectoral distribution, we've looked at the national distribution, we've looked at the gender distribution. What else? How do gender distribution within the ranking? That's what this slide is all about. So we then look at when we review the 10,000 applications, how did they rank? Again, you see that we have you see the number of applications that makes very high, actually very small in terms of the 10,000, and then those that made very low and low also very small, which means most of the distribution is around this low medium to high medium. The distribution of male to female across all of these is actually 1 to 2. That's what came in that we reviewed out of the 10,170. So for every female, you have 2 male across board. And even when we reviewed, that's what also happened in terms of ranking. And so compared to other years, we received there has been no significant change in the number of applications or geographical spread in terms of the Pan-African nature of the applications we've received. I mean, between last year and this year, we received the same number. It's only in the first year we received application from 49 countries. But right now, we've covered the whole of Africa. Everybody in Africa is virtually aware of this program. And each year, they're looking forward to it, and they submit their applications, irrespective of how many. But we get to receive applications from everybody or from someone, somewhere in an African country. Then, in terms of shift, we also try to dimension and see, is there any shift in trends over the past 5 years across sector and by the life stage of a business, the distribution in the first set of analysis of the 10,170 that we reviewed. And what we found out that there isn't any significant shift in terms of the life stage of the business, as well as in terms of the sectoral distribution of the applications. So that's what this just tells us. Apart from just some few sectors, like for instance, consulting, it decreased from 2.6% to 2.1%. Agriculture virtually remained the same. Fashion increased from 5.8 to 6.8%, and then financial services decreased. Financial services actually decreased. Haulage and logistics, we didn't get any haulage and logistics application in the 10,000 that we reviewed. So from 0.5, very low last year, and then it just went to 0. And then oil and gas also decreased from 0.64 of the total 10,000 applications to just 0.4. And then if you look at the life stage, the life cycle of a business, the distribution, you also find out that across the years, there hasn't really been, if you look at from 2008 to 2009, you discover that in terms of idea stage, there not significant increase. In terms of when you go to infancy stage or market entry stage businesses, some decrease there. But when you go to testing stage, there's an increase. Again, justifying the fact that most of the applications we receive is actually within that range. Many people who are testing their product in research stage and wanting to go to market. And I think that's something that's good for the entire program. It means we'll get to see a number of our people in the coming years doing their business and running their business rather than waiting for them to go through the entire life cycle. So that's all about the analysis in terms of the emerging trends as far as the 10,170 applications that we evaluated is concerned. So now we go to the real thing, which is the 3,050 applications. How did we arrive at that? I've walked you through the methodology. I've walked you through the process. I've walked you through everything. But how did we eventually get these 3,050 applications? Did we just rank and then took the 3,050? What did we do? Just come with me. So the final 3,050 applications were selected, and most of them comprised of applications that were around medium and above. Remember the medium, the high, medium and above. So every application you have here, most of them were within that range. However, what we did was we received the 10,170 applications. Now, when we evaluated the 10,000 in the second stage, or the 10,170 applications, we ranked them based on score. And when we ranked based on score, 6,000 applications were selected, and those were applications that scored 59% and above. And these 6,000 applications had to go through the third stage of evaluation to make sure that we get to our number, which is the 3,050 applications. So what we did then was we then did a merit list. So after the third stage evaluation, we took a cutoff at 60%, and we found out that most countries that meet that cutoff, so no matter how further you go, you're not going to get more than 52 countries. So meaning you have to stop at a point. So even if you take 3,000 and the 3,000, you won't still get more than 52 countries. So what that means is that you need to find a way, that's what we call our discretionary analysis. So we have the merit, and then on the basis of certain requirement, like the Pan-African nature of the program, we've got to make sure we cover all of Africa. And then also the requirement of our partners. We have to make sure that their requirements are satisfied. And a combination, not just a permutation, a combination of all of these factors actually help us arrive at the number we have, which is the 3,050. So when we did that, we got 6,000 applications. And so when we got the 6,000 applications, we then subjected the 6,000 applications to a third stage review between Accenture team and then the foundations team. And then when we did our first ranking, we got 2,701 at 60%. And the further we went, we couldn't get all of the countries, so we had to stop at some point. So it doesn't matter. The lower you go, even if you go below 6, you may not find anybody. So we stopped there. And so the next question was, how do we ensure which country is missing? So we went to look for the country that is missing, and we found out that Eritrea was not there. And we took the 2 applications from Eritrea. and added it to it. So the highest scoring, the top scoring applications was added from Eritrea to make up that number to 2703. And then we then did an analysis to ensure that out of that 2703, have we met our partner's requirement within that number? Because if we don't meet our partner's requirement, then we've not actually achieved our purpose, which is actually to make sure that we meet everybody's requirement. And that's why I said it's a combination. You need to look at all the dimensions of requirement and meet them as you get your final list. So when we did that, we found out that, yes, most of our partners' requirement has been satisfied within the 2703. However, for some specific for some numbers, we didn't have all the numbers. So some were shortfalls. We had a shortfall of 347. And so we went, and when we picked the top ranking applications that make up based on the partner's requirement, I couldn't just put down all the partner's requirements here. There are quite a lot of requirements, and it took us quite a while to combine all of these requirements. And I can tell you, it took a lot from the team to be able to combine all the different combinations in different dimensions to get to the 3,050.
So we shouldn't get more partners? We shouldn't get more partners?
Did I?
So we should not get more partners?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. We should get as much partners as possible, or as many partners as possible. But there are certain criteria that we have to agree on that will make it easier. So, for example, the partnership arrangement should be more of additional. So, partner A, give me additional 500, additional 200. It makes it easier. But when a partner go by sector, go by gender, go by all of the multidimensional,
fragile states.
A lot of things come in. And when they do, you have to make sure that there are no repetition, because you probably picked a candidate here, and that candidate is what partner B is asking for. And this particular candidate, you have limitations of this number of candidates from this country, and you just have to find a way of satisfying everybody. And I think that's why it is often said that you have to answer to one Lord. If you answer to two lords, if care is not taken, you may be torn apart.
When mathematicians came up with combination.
And that's why I said the law of combination was what took us here. Thank you, sir.
I think that's the beauty of it. We want to democratize wealth and prosperity. Okay. I said we want to democratize wealth and prosperity. I think we need to have more partners, and we need to ensure that we take this round. Therefore, we need to bring in all their suggestions and ensure we meet that.
Yeah. It's not saying we shouldn't have, but it's also saying that the engagement fees, recognize that there's more work.
And I think that's the truth. That was what was subtly passed across.
My comment is, that's the beauty of it. In democratizing wealth, we need to do that. Thank you.
All right, great. Can I continue? Yes. So at the end of the day, we have our 3,050 applications or winners that will be unveiled when we are done very, very soon. So we want to know where they are from. And we want to, you may not see the names here, but you are going to know where they are from.
There's tension in Africa now. Tension, social media guys.
Yeah, everybody is waiting for just.
Some guy tweeted that he has not slept for 2 days. Waiting for this announcement. So.
Yes.
Okay, go on, but soon.
I think once we are through, a click of the button will release everything. We are set. All right. So in terms of, again, the geographical reach and distribution of applications, in the 3,050, we have everybody across all of Africa. Just like I said, in how we did our combination to arrive at that. So, and this time around, Nigeria had about 37%. So what that actually means is, at the end of the day, is that irrespective of the number of applications that came in, especially for some countries, the number going out had to almost be the same for several factors. One is the fact that they scored high on one grant, not just Nigeria, other countries. And then two, partners requirement. All of these combinations ensure that, to some extent, you find out that what came in was almost a replica of what we had in our final shortlist. So Nigeria had 36.5%. And West Africa, again, though dropped over 50% of the final. And then East Africa, this time around, increased from about 28% to over 30%. And then, that is just the distribution that we have. Country like Libya, I think, had one or two people that submitted, and so we picked one. Eritrea, I think they had two, and we picked the two to ensure that we had that geographical and Pan-African spread. Can I move on? All right, thank you. So in terms of the male-female distribution, this is what we also have. In Seychelles, we have 100% female. Sierra Leone, 71%. Namibia, these are countries where the number of female that made the final list was more than the number of male that made the final list. In some countries, in Seychelles, for example, it's all female that made it. They are all female. The winners are all female. Yeah, but everybody that made it, they are all female. So the reality, if you look at North Africa, so what we need to, so the reality is in Namibia 68%, in Cape Verde we have 57% in the final list. So the females are.
We should share this with the world. So Namibia 68%.
Yeah, Seychelles 100, Sierra Leone 71.
Sierra Leone 71.
Yeah, of their total that are female. So more female than male in some countries. So we hope.
Shall I listening to this fact? Okay.
Yeah, even in South Africa, 53% female, meaning the female just a hedge over, just a hedge actually. But that's not, is a good fit. It's an interesting fit. I think Nigeria is a case. We need to separate Nigeria and over time deal with that separately. Because I think, because for every one female in Nigeria, you have almost 3 male. So it's, or 2. So it's, no matter how you do it. What it means is that for every, there are more, the males are just too much that no matter what, it's, I'm sure we can work on that. We can work on that. And I think we have everybody here, and everybody can work on that to make sure that happens. The network, the alumni network, everybody needs to, all hands on deck to make sure that next year in Nigeria, we have a story to tell. If you look at it here, it's not twice, it's like, it's not 2 to 1. When you do this, it's like 40-something% there. So you have 9 plus, and when you had that, it's about 40% or something like that in Nigeria. It's not bad. It's just that.
Not too bad.
It's not too bad.
Compared to Sierra Leone, compared to other countries.
I just want to say that in 2015, when we started this program, the female selection was 24%. And we set ourselves the goal, 50-50, certainly by 5 years, but absolutely. And the way that we've done it is to use the role models of the women who applied the previous years to go tell the story that this program is open to women business owners. So I am so thrilled that we've hit 36%.
Thank you, Parminder. Again, in terms of sectoral distribution in the final selection or the final list, agriculture, ICT, education and training accounted for half, about 50% of all of the applicants that we will be unveiling today. And in terms of the stage of business, you have the infancy or market entry leading the way, which again is very interesting and good for us, followed by those who are in the idea stage, giving us opportunity to help them shape those businesses as they go through the incubation program. And then finally, by the testing stage, meaning of all of these people, 24% of them are ready to enter the market, which is a good feat, actually. And those that are ready to expand are just 9%. So all states of Nigeria are also represented, and I think that is all about the presentation. These are our partners and what they requested for. This is the trend over the past years per country, and thank you.
Thank you, that was very interesting and impressive. Will it be possible to have access to your PowerPoint on the website to be able to look more into detail of these figures?
I'm not so sure this is published. I think the foundation, it will have to be on a case-by-case basis. It will have to be on a case-by-case basis, discussed with the foundation, and certain decisions can be taken. But we've got that information. It's available. But you can, of course, you can't have this on the website, but it's available.
Alex Trotter is a member of the Board of Trustees. Alex,
so thanks for taking us through, both this presentation and also for the incredible hard work that Accenture have done on this. I had a question. I mean, I think mining the data we have, and presenting it and making it available to people is going to be a very interesting task. So I'm sure we will be looking at how to make it available, both to push further, for example, into gender balances. What interested me is obviously one has to cut the data to achieve certain criteria, whether it's geographic or sectorial. So how many people were excluded because of that? How many people lost out because we had to be in 54 countries?
Okay. If you look at it, the fact that we have to be in 54 countries, like I said earlier, when we did our ranking, we had 52 countries already at 2701. So what you needed to do was to probably continue to 3,050, and then you still have your 52 countries. But you can't say it is the difference between that 3050 and 2701 that lost out. The reason is the fact that the partners specifically requested for certain things, and you have to build that in. So in actual fact, what I can say is that in the way it was done, right, the applications that scored below 60, for example, they also belong to the countries you already had. And the other applications were taken from other countries were not necessarily, they were also people who were who were lower than 60, but not necessarily from elsewhere. So we have to look at that to be able to arrive at that number. We need to do certain calculations to get that number. But it's not a very straightforward calculation to say because I was going to 3,050 and I stopped at 2701, therefore all the people that would have made me get to 3,050, they are the ones that lost out. Not necessarily. I'll give you an example. Some partners requested for people from a specific country. So what we do is we'll go and look for the highest scoring in the remaining from that particular country, and then we bring them to the number. But we can try and see what that number is.
You also add, if I understood Alan's question, that the 1,000 commitment by the foundation, totally intact and follow the process.
Yeah.
But where, for instance, AFDB says want to support additional 1,000 young Africans, but would like it to be 50% male, 50% females, and to cut across all the countries in Africa, and then now work out how to achieve that. Again, in all of this is merit, is high scoring, the way it's called, that counts. Yes, please.
Is there a possibility to have the partners agree on a standardized criteria framework? Because if not, the reporting modalities, we all have different needs, but I think it would be good to sometimes to have for the foundation to invite all partners to meet and agree on those standardized framework. That's the first one. The second one also.
Sorry, I think on that is a takeaway from this session in Symbols, where she said brilliant, and I agree, totally brilliant. The kind of feedback we want to get, we should build that in, and it makes it more consultative and, gets all stakeholders on board.
For the second point, I think on the gender balance,
Clara, can you guys adjust the microphone?
You could note that the small island states, and they're usually the guilty culprits. The small island states usually have more women engaged in all of these areas. So if we're looking at the gender balance, I think we need to take that into consideration, because countries like Seychelles, Cape Verde, you will always get women leading. And if you, I don't know, it's something that we've experienced. And I think it's important to ensure that we encourage more men in those particular countries, affirmative action to get them to participate. Thank you.
Ask a question before go ahead. No, I know you wanted to ask a question. Other comments, please. Members, this side, Ramon, ask them, please, if anyone. The journalists, if you have questions, please, this is the opportunity to ask a question, please. Journalists don't have questions? But if you step out now, they start following you to say they want to ask. Please, if you have questions, kindly ask the questions here, please. Our journalists. Okay. What? Okay. If you kindly, your name, your organization to be useful.
Thank you, Tony. My name is Mataya Zokwe, and I work for the Guardian newspapers. I'm interested in the aftermath of selection. What has been happening to past awardees? Because what I have learned here is that you are scoring the idea. This idea could be my idea given to my friend Sonia here, and he presents it, and you score him. Because he doesn't fully own the idea, so it's not automatic that if he gets the award, it can work. So what are the mechanisms put in place to ensure that these things are not just presented a word on paper and they don't really take off as businesses? Thank you.
In a nutshell, you're saying what is the impact of what we have done so far?
Yes.
I'll call on the CEO to address that, please. Pamela.
I knew I would get the difficult question. Of course, this program wasn't just organized just because. The impact, we do want our entrepreneurs to create jobs, to generate wealth, to make the social impact. For me, it's really important that those entrepreneurs, their businesses are sustainable, so the convention is that 75% of businesses fail within the first, second, third year. Well, just a short survey that we did of 1,470 of 2015 to 2017 entrepreneurs, we discovered over 75% of them are operational. They are running their businesses, across the African continent. We also discovered that from when they applied, they were maybe generating collectively, those 1,472, about 4,000 jobs. After that survey that we did, they had doubled, tripled through the number of jobs that they were creating. We surveyed the amount of revenues that they were generating. I think when they had applied, it was about 18 million, they said. Remember, our businesses are 0 to 3-year-old. So you apply with an idea, or that you've had a business running for less than 3 years. That is our cutoff. We are literally the only entrepreneurship program across the continent, probably in the world, that is dealing with the bottom of the pyramid in terms of entrepreneurship, not bottom of the pyramid in terms of poverty. So those entrepreneurs that had applied, 0 to 3-year-old businesses, about 18 million was what they were, what we recorded when they applied. And within those 3 years, they had generated $58 million worth of revenues. So they are creating jobs, they are creating revenues. We will continue, as my colleague Alex Trotter pointed out, we are sitting on Africa's largest database of entrepreneurs, yeah? And the next 5 years, you can't just start monitoring people in the first year, second year, as a lot of those of us who run businesses, we know we're barely breathing in the first and second year of our lives as business owners. But we will now put in place a very rigorous monitoring and evaluation process and have literally annual feedbacks from that data analysis, reports from that data analysis, and also because we've got now more partners involved because they too want to see what's been the impact of the $5,000 that we're investing. But remember, it's not the $5,000 that's the most important. The most important is the technical, the capacity building, the mentoring, the extraordinary network that these entrepreneurs now have across the African continent. 4,470 entrepreneurs are connected across the African continent. So impact is being measured. And later on today, you will see a documentary featuring about 12 entrepreneurs that I interviewed last year, literally in their businesses. And you'll hear their entrepreneurial journey. You'll see their businesses. And they'll also share with you the impact that they received from the entrepreneurship program. So it's the impact of the program, and it's the impact of the entrepreneurs on the businesses across Africa in terms of the transformation of this continent economically and socially. Thank you.
Can you also talk about, can you also talk about the awards, some of your people?
Okay, so here's an example, that is what I should have led with. So here's an example of an impact. An entrepreneur applied in 2017, went through the program, and saw an advert for Google Impact Challenge. And his friends said, don't be crazy, you know, this is for big boys. The prize was $250,000, yeah? And remember, he'd only applied, and it's Help Mum, that's the name of the business. And it's literally a birth bag that he wanted to distribute to women who do not have access to the birthing equipment, yeah? He qualified in December 2017 from our program. He did not listen to his friends who said, don't, you will not get anywhere. He was one of 5,000 applicants who applied, made it to the top 12, so he was already guaranteed $125,000, the top 12 from the Google Impact Challenge for social enterprises. And then he pitched to us. There was a panel of judges, and they pitched. And he was one of the 2 Tony Elumelu entrepreneurs that walked away that evening with $500,000, $250,000 of the $2 million investment or grant that Google Impact Challenge was going to give. One of our other entrepreneurs, Indebusi, wants to develop drone technology to support farmers, is currently in Singapore at the invitation of the Singaporean government, who's given him a life visa to come and develop his drones and bring them back to Nigeria, to manufacture them in Nigeria, and which will itself will create jobs, and then to deploy them across. We know Nigeria is the largest agricultural community, in terms of agriculture, it's its largest asset. And you can imagine how those drones are going to transform the lives of the farmers. I can tell you 100 more stories.
But they will see some in the documentary. Let me, to wrap up this interesting question that was asked, I'd like to say that as a foundation, this is the 5th year of this program. 2019 is the 5th year, because the 4th one just finished, this is the 5th one starting. We believe it's now time to take stock. And so, even at the meeting we had yesterday, the Board of Trustees meeting yesterday, is a question one of the directors raised. We need to be very rigorous about this. And so, for the 5th year anniversary of this, we want to engage just the way we engage Accenture when we're starting, to help us go through, develop a rigorous process for selecting. We believe in transparency, and we would like to get another independent party, like Accenture, to handle this part of the verification and confirmation, to know how this exercise has fared, to know how far we've gone in meeting our aspirations, job creation, the revenue contribution, etc., recognizing the fact that entrepreneurship journey is a long-term one, but so far we need to see the impact that this is creating. We will be talking to development partners and co to see how the funding for this assessment, impact assessment and monitoring, will be done, so that it does not deplete from the stock that we have in providing more entrepreneurs. So maybe we'll come to Tony and Co at that time. Alex, go on, please.
Yeah, I just want to add to the points that both Tony and Parminder have made. It is the time now that the foundation is looking more broadly at its impact. But I think it's also worth noting from both development partners, from the board of press, that this foundation is both very generous, but it has created, we have touched in some ways through applications, I think 400,000 entrepreneurs in Africa. So we have access to them. And that is something, again, we're looking very closely about how we can use that access to work with people to explore and understand the broader entrepreneurial. I mean, we are very much impact focused, but we're also about policy development, about enabling environments. And that is going to be part of what we're doing at the moment, because no one else, if you want to understand African entrepreneurs and access them, just as we, I think, have the most robust, transparent process of giving money and catalyzing, we also have, I think, and it's an extraordinary gift which we are working out how to use, the access to the people. So if academics want to understand what makes success work in entrepreneurship in Africa, we have the people and we have the access, and we have it on a huge scale. So it's an important message to get across that we are very actively looking about how we exploit that data, those relationships. And I think the last point I'd like to message is one of the ways we're going to do that is this wonderful product called TEF Connect. And hopefully everyone in the room should know about it, and in fact everyone in the room can join it, because it is the entrepreneurial hub for Africa. Anyone can go in. And again, it demonstrates how, 1,000 people got money from our foundation, 3,000 with the generosity of everyone in this room. But Africa has a rather larger population than that, and it has a rather larger group of entrepreneurs. And we are always very conscious we are scratching the surface. So TEF Connect is a way in which the intellectual know-how that has been developed, the business planning tools, can go to everybody. And I urge everyone to sign up, join, and interact on that platform as well.
And how do you join? How do you join the TEF Connect?
So you join TEF Connect by logging onto www.tefconnect.com. Very simple. And you can register either as an entrepreneur or as an investor or a mentor. It is an interactive platform that is bringing the entire African entrepreneurship ecosystem to the world. And that is the essence, is before now, the global community has found that especially the SME in Africa usually has not enough information, not enough data, and we want to bridge that gap. and TF Connect will hopefully be that bridge. With over 500,000 subscribers in the last 3 months of launching, within the next year, we expect that every serious entrepreneur in Africa and anyone serious about entrepreneurship in Africa should be registered and active on tfconnect.com.
Just to add a little bit, you know, the point Alex was trying to make is, over the years, we've had over 400 and let's say 450,000 applications. If you add the one for this year, this 200 and something, it takes it to over 600,000 applications. And we've been able to support less than, let's just say about 5,000, or with this about 8,000. So that means there are some dashed hopes. So for us, even though we cannot give seed capital to these people, what we decided to do at the foundation is to further democratize access to how you can improve yourself and succeed as an entrepreneur. So these 600 and something thousand Africans will have access to training, geographic training, access to literature about entrepreneurship, and will also be join the networking platform that has been created, and also have access to market, the virtual marketplace, which UBA, United Bank of Africa, helping to power. So the whole essence of this to make sure, yes, you didn't get seed capital, but you've not lost out. So we thought we should also mention this. So it's also part of what the foundation is doing to help create more entrepreneurs on our continent and empower our young ones. Okay. So, if you no, please, other comments, questions? That question, see, one question you asked, I just I engaged up for like 10 minutes. Any more questions, comments? Who? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Tony, and congratulations for the wonderful things you're doing. My name is Aminu Gusau, PhD MNI. I'm a senior director at the EFCC, in charge of policy, planning, and statistics. I'm sent here on behalf of my chief executive, Mr. Ibrahim Mustafa Magu. And he wants me to also give a special expression to wish you more years in the world on your birthday, and also to congratulate you on what you are doing for your country and for Africa at large. He also wants to share with you that the commitment, the engagement, the hard work you are doing can neither be quantified nor can it be overemphasized. And with that, he also wants you to know that he's sharing or trying to share with those beneficiaries of hard-earned wealth, distributed to them, that they should always use this honesty, this transparency as a guiding principle in what they do. By so doing, they are doing their best also in contributing, or they are pioneering or being pioneers in trying to see that we get rid of corruption in the continent of Africa. With this, I wish you the best of luck, and I'm here on his behalf, and I'll be in all the ceremony, and I will get back the report to him. Thank you for listening.
Any more? All right. May I call on the incoming CEO of the foundation, Ifeanyi Ugochukwu, to now tell us all these ADB, AFDB, and others. Tell us about these partners who have helped us to increase the support for African entrepreneurs from 1,000 to 3,050. Tell us.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So I'm sure it has been reiterated many times in the room today that by the time we had done 3 rounds of the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, and we saw applications go up from 20,000 to 43,000 to 93,000, 156,000 last year. This year, 216,000. We knew that we had to open the program up to partnerships. And so last year was the first time that rather than 1,000 entrepreneurs, we funded and trained 1,470 entrepreneurs. So this year, we were able to scale this figure to 3,050. And I'm going to call on each and every one of the partners that have identified the Tony Elumelu Foundation as a tried and tested model to engage with African entrepreneurs as the sure way of catalyzing the economic transformation of our dear continent. Entrepreneurship is truly the key, and that is what they have shown by partnering with trusted and reliable partners who have a credible and a tested model that is sustainable to empower entrepreneurs on the African continent. First of all, we have Africa Development Bank, ably represented by the director, Oli Diba Wada. Please rise, please rise. Africa Development Bank, they are sponsoring a whopping 1,000 entrepreneurs in 2019 over all 54 African countries. Thank you very much.
No, for impact, so let's understand. The foundation, the Tony Elumelu Foundation, our commitment is 1,000 entrepreneurs every year. What African Development Bank has done is to match it. So it's like two foundations. And this is quite instructive because to me, I've always argued that the name is a development institution, African Development Bank, and that you have various ways of developing a continent, infrastructure development, human capital development, technology, so many ways. This area of entrepreneurship, in my viewpoint, will go down in history as one of the best decisions that African Development Bank has taken in developing our continent. And so I would like us to thank the leadership, yourselves, for all the efforts in saying we'll provide additional 1,000. Who knows, next year might go from 1,000 to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Well, thank you very, 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 very much. And again, the reason when I was talking, we were talking about impact assessment. African Development Bank over the maybe 1-2 years want to show the world the impact of what they've done through this intervention. So all of us will work together through the consultative approach you advance to make sure we measure the impact of this. Well done. Thank you very much.
So secondly, we have the United Nations Development Program. Now, please permit me, I have not been able to identify the representative in the room. I know we are expecting the regional director for Nigeria for the United Nations. So if you're in the room, please stand up, because somehow in the crowd we've missed you, or perhaps they haven't come yet. Okay, so they haven't come yet. So the United Nations Development Program, we signed an MOU with them in 2017. It was not a financial MOU. But by the time they witnessed what we did in 2017, by 2018 they said, listen, we're going to jump in. In 2018 they sponsored 40 entrepreneurs. This year they're sponsoring 754 entrepreneurs across 45 countries in Africa. So I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to engage with them perhaps in the selection announcement, because some of them are flying in today. Then,
well, just to add also for UN, so the UN involvement of partnership is from New York for the entire African continent. So in fact, they wanted to also do 1,000, but at some point budgetary constraint, they dropped it to 700 and what?
754.
754 for African, all the countries?
45. They have offices in 45
African countries. So we appreciate this too.
And just to mention that this was spearheaded by the Africa representative, Mrs. Ahuna Eziokonwa. So we thank her, and I'm sure we'll see their representative later today. So once...
No, but to also say that the messaging is working, yes, the advocacy is working, the world is beginning to embrace and realize the fact that a sure way to development. I mean, when you hear ICRC is supporting this, I mean, it tells you the world is realizing that in the 21st century, the way to engage with Africa to help to develop Africa in a manner that is sustainable, irreversible, and in a manner that helps Africa to become self-reliant is here. For United Nations to embrace this approach to development helps a lot, because I think it was in 2012 or 13, the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal, they invited a few private sector people to share thoughts on the way forward. Some of us advocated that you should get private sector involved, and that the way you intervene should begin to change. I'm very, very happy that UNDP is leading this, and this is very, very commendable. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So next on our list is the International Committee for the Red Cross. Last year, they sponsored 200 entrepreneurs in the northeast and Niger Delta areas of Nigeria. And that was quite interesting, because everybody knows that ICRC is usually involved in emergency relief. They go to post-conflict areas and provide emergency relief. But they saw that in these post-conflict areas, the only thing that can truly build the communities back up is commercial activity, is entrepreneurship. And because that wasn't their core, they decided to partner with experts in that field, and we partnered last year and had a successful tenure sponsoring 200 additional entrepreneurs. This year, we're sponsoring almost the same. They had to take out about 10% for administrative costs, but we're doing 180 this year. So please, Eloa, the head of mission for the International Committee of the Red Cross. Thank you so much for all the support.
But just to add that, Ella, we do appreciate this, because it was quite catalytic, It was easy for us to say to UN, we're doing this with ICRC. It was easy for us to say to African Development Bank, come on board, we're doing this with ICRC. So it was very catalytic, and it means a lot more than the 200 that you're sponsoring. Thank you so much. Yes.
I just want to also remind Chairman, you recall in 2017 the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Forum, where ICRC from the stage made a commitment of $1 million, and they have walked the talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Parminder. I think that you've just made an important point, Parminder, because as I call on the numbers, people don't quite understand what the financial commitment is. So I'm going to run through it. So AFDB, Africa Development Bank, by sponsoring 1,000 entrepreneurs, are committing $5 million to empower African entrepreneurs, 1,000 of them. UNDP is committing just over $1.4 million, my math. ICRC at 180 is committing $900,000. And that brings us to, again, another first for us. So the development organizations are one pillar, but another very important pillar is African governments, because this work we're doing is really a collaborative effort. Public sector and private sector with our development friends, development partners should come together to catalyze the growth of the small and medium enterprises in Africa. And so for the first time, opening the doorway to other African countries, we're very proud to say that an African country, the Republic of Benin, has come to us as partners for their Seme City. They are empowering 50 Benin entrepreneurs with $200,000. Claude Borna is the CEO of Seme City in the Republic of Benin. Thank you so very much, Claude. Thank you. Also following in her footsteps, this year we also have, and incidentally, two not so big African countries. So we had Benin on the one hand, and then we have Botswana. I do know that the director from Botswana is still on his plane, but the head of corporate communications is here. Please, can you rise? You are in the crowd. Thank you so much, Anu. So Botswana is sponsoring 20 additional Botswana entrepreneurs onto the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program with $100,000. Again, another first. We have Nigeria. We all know that 1 out of every 5 Africans is a Nigerian. Nigeria is the most populous African country. And so 50% of our applications actually come from Nigeria. Nigerians are competitive. Nigerians have entrepreneurship running in their blood veins. So for the first time, we have a Nigerian state sponsoring additional entrepreneurs onto the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. And I'd like to call on the representative from Anambra State to please rise. Neka, thank you so very much. Thank you, Neka. So yet again, Anambra State has opened the doorway to all 36 states in Nigeria to empower your citizens, empower your young. We keep talking about job creation. The only way to create jobs is to have businesses that will hire the young, and entrepreneurship is the way. So if you empower entrepreneurs, these SMEs will then create jobs. In Japan, 97% of employment in Japan is by the small and medium enterprises. And most advanced economies, it is the small and medium enterprises that create the bulk of the jobs that are needed in the countries. So we need to refocus and know that by empowering entrepreneurs, we are directly solving the problem of job creation. Thank you so much. Anambra State is empowering 15 Anambra State indigenes on the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program this year. They are not in the room at the moment, but it is yet another first. So I'm so happy to say we have 3 firsts this year. We have African governments, we have state governments from Nigeria, and then we have embassies. The US consulate, they are not in the room like I said, but the US consulate this year is empowering 20 entrepreneurs across 10 Nigerian states onto the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. So I'm very pleased that we have their colleagues in the room today. We have represented here the Embassy of Germany, Embassy of France, Tunisia, and the UK. So the US has set the tone, they've opened the door, and that is one way of continuing to build what great work the countries are already doing in partnership. Once again, thank you to all the partners for the support, and what we're saying is that this is only the beginning. If one private organization could have set the ball rolling, together we can empower 1 million entrepreneurs in 1 year. We will not stop until we get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. UNDP just arrived. UNICEF, sorry. Okay. Anyway, UNICEF, sorry. Is there a reason you did not talk about GIZ? The German
GIZ was last year.
€1 billion. So
yes, GIZ was in 2018, not for 2019. Yes.
But so we need to recognize it. But yes, they're also coming to Nigeria, just that you people have not concluded the process for the process for 2018.
No, we have.
So we should commend them.
Yeah, well, yes,
for
absolutely, absolutely, because they have completed, but it's just the final processes that were concluded.
Is this part of the 1,400 for last year?
That's part of the 1,470 for last year, yes. So GIZ, they empowered 210 entrepreneurs onto the program for the 2018 cohort. They trained the later half of the year, and we concluded in February. We're just now tidying up the papers. So what this means, Chairman, is that it's not too late, that we're announcing 3,000 this year doesn't mean that interested partners cannot still sign up, and we can still mark another 1,000 before the end of the year. So we're very flexible. So thank you very much to Mr. Falls, representative from UNICEF. And then also, I have to mention Indorama. Indorama is a private company, and they truly opened the doors. In 2017, Indorama sponsored 10 additional entrepreneurs onto the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. Since then, every year, they have consistently funded 10 entrepreneurs. So they are doing 10 this year. So really, the last is, we left the best for last, because when I met with the chairman of Indorama at Davos this year, he said, well, someone had to start. And indeed, he started. He opened the door. So I want to thank specifically Indorama for opening the door and for their continued support every year with sponsoring 10 additional entrepreneurs. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm told we have to have a lunch. It's lunch, right?
Yes, lunch.
It's lunch, right? I have to have lunch.
Can I go and check?
So, if anyone, where are we going for lunch?
We'll be going to the Zuma Grill, which is downstairs.
Okay,
yes.
Zuma Grill?
Yes.
Okay. So, we'll go to Zuma Grill for lunch, please. And then from there, we'll go to the hall for the unveiling. If anyone, you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm that the press in the room will be following us to Zuma Grill, and will continue with the press briefings in Zuma Grill. Yes, a working lunch.
If you have questions to ask, they've been asking questions now. Maybe they have questions again to ask. Okay, so we'll go. Okay, thank you.